10.000 euro in rate da 167 euro al mese per 72 mesi.
Okay, guys, welcome to the stream. I want to thank everybody for answering the questions. I hope you guys enjoyed them. I actually put most of those together, so it was actually a lot of fun sort of researching them and learning about them. And there were a few there that I didn't know myself. I really had to actually look into it. So it's kind of cool. Anyway, guys, we're going to be getting started in about 2 minutes. On our actual stream here. Now, we are using display capture, so you might occasionally see a screen pop up in front, but this is how we make sure that we get a perfect visual in the game. In fact, I'm going to bring this over here so you guys don't have to look at the Twitch screen, and hopefully this is better for you guys. Dave says, woo, it begins. It does indeed. And I'm actually really excited to be streaming this game. This might be, so far, one of my favorite games we've released. I really enjoy it. There's just so many possibilities in this game, and you can have a blast here. Here we go. Looking forward to this is Piddly and Squishy. And let me know, guys, if the mic volume is doing okay. Hopefully it is. Good sound. Very cool. Very cool. Okay, so at this point, guys, we are going to get started. We're just about getting ready here. So we're going to jump into a new game. Now, I do want to discuss a few of the other possibilities, of course. Of course, you've got your standard load game, which is pretty self-explanatory. You've also got your scenario editor. And, you know, remake or okay to me. So basically, if you've got any skill creating scenarios, this is the perfect game to do so. A large percentage of the scenarios made in this game were actually created by users, including, you know, the history or the stories behind them, of course. Now, of course, many of these particular battles are based on battles that actually happened, you know, in various wars. But some of them are, of course, alternative history scenarios, things like that. So we're going to be taking a look at quite a lot. So I'm going to go ahead, guys. I'm jumping into a new game here. As you can see here, we've got some interesting choices, but we're actually going to be going into the theater. And the theater allows us to select from a ton of different lists, which contain a number of different wars. So I think I'd like to start pre-World War I, but I think we'll start off in World War I. So we've got a number of things here we could work on. And there's something I want you guys to take a look at. So if you take a look over here on the right side, you can actually see information regarding the scale of the map. The map scale is 20 kilometers per hex. The time scale is 1 week turns. Unix scale is divisions. And this is all subject to change. So this can change depending on what battle you're playing, what war you're playing, etc. So we're going to be taking a look at the Kaiserschlacht today, I believe. And we're actually going to be playing with the German forces. So after 0440 on March 21st, 1918, more than 6,000 German guns and 3,500 mortars opened fire on the 43-mile front of the British 3rd and 5th Armies in Picardy. After 5 solid hours of gas and high explosive bombardment, the first waves of 3 German armies, specially trained in infiltration tactics, hit the stunned British line. By March 23rd, the Germans were through British defenses into open country, threatening both to separate the British from the French and to drive them into the English Channel. And guys, if you take a look here, this goes on for quite a while, and this is really totally up to the scenario creator how much he wants to put into this, but you can see that a lot of these give you some really in-depth information, which to me kind of helps you get more involved with the scenario. Now, we also have significant events. And basically, one of these significant events, you definitely want to read these because these can affect the game. On turn 1, the Allies suffer a 20% shock penalty and a 10% air shock penalty to model the surprise the German attack enjoyed. So I'm going to go ahead here. Now, over here, this button on the bottom left is, of course, going back to the theater selection screen. This one right here allows you to decide how you want to play the battle. So right now we've got 2-player mode, hot seat. In other words, this is great for if you've got a buddy over the house or you're over a friend's house and you each want to play the game. You know, you could do your turn, they could do their turn, etc. Of course, we've got the play by email system, but what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be doing allied computer versus human player. In this case, we're going to be playing as Germany. So let's jump in, guys. Now, yes, Amianas, interesting. So he wanted us to do Kaiserschlacht as well. So we're going to be looking at a number of different wars during this stream, both World War I as well as more modern wars and some wars in between both. Now, these are the designer game preferences. So what I want to say about this is if you're new to the game, you might want to actually select some of these. So in other words, right here, the preference was set to on for Fog of War, which we like. We want the Fog of War so we don't see the enemy. But maybe if you're totally new to the game, you might want to go ahead and turn the Fog of War off so that you can see everything. It might make things a little easier for you, but we'll have to wait and see. So we're going to go ahead and move forward. Now, the situation briefing, very important information. And as you can see here in the special weapons area, we're not using any chemical weapons, we're not using any nuclear weapons, but believe it or not, in certain combats and in certain conflicts, you will have to use these weapons. So first things first, this is a massive front. The news summary I absolutely love because the news summary gives information not just on what's happening in this time in history, but also what's happening in your particular game. So you could destroy a village, you could accidentally destroy a city, you could force refugees to escape from a city, all sorts of things, just about anything you could imagine. So we're going to get a little closer here, a lot closer really, and we are going to begin the offensive. Suffice it to say, I can't go through a tremendous amount of explanation of what each unit does. We'll do our best. For that, you want to take a look at our tutorials, which you can find on the Matrix page, and actually really, really fun tutorial to do. I actually did them, but it took a lot of work. It wasn't easy. So we're going to go ahead and start some attacks. Over here, we've got some men. I'm actually going to try to hit the French front first. It's down here. Actually, I'm going to hit these guys. So first things first, we want to go ahead and find an area where we can attack. I'm going to plan our attack, and I'm going to be using a lot of artillery support. Over here, if you look at support on the right side, that is letting us know how much artillery support we're getting, and actually our chances for success are fair. I'd like to get them up to good, but I don't want to waste all our artillery on just this one attack. So let's take about half. We'll accept that. And as you can see right there, the golden swords crossing on the actual unit lets us know that we've planned an attack. Now you can actually get rid of those swords. You don't need them there. If you go to map and click this button right here, you can actually go ahead and get rid of them. I personally like to have them so I know where I've attacked. Kalani's saying it looks a little overwhelming. Believe me, if I can play it, you can play it too. That's the Agrippa guarantee. And actually, I had very little difficulty learning the game. Now, of course, there is a learning aspect to the game. But you can learn that quite quickly. So just as an example, right here we're attacking the enemy, and the reason that you see these two different hexes is because we've got some units in this hex, we've got some units in this hex. The enemy is in that central hex, which is the one we're focused on, but they're also getting some support from the top and the bottom hex. And if we look down here, we can see the probability of success in this attack is fair. Now on the right side, and another thing you probably need to know are the NATO counters. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you, Brooding Phobos. I think you put it perfectly. The Operation of War is the easiest complex game to play. I totally agree. Oh, yeah, Zach Blood, there's absolutely NATO counters. In fact, all of these are NATO counters. So this is the NATO counter for artillery, the sort of a square with a dot on it. And we're going to go ahead and select a few of these. I'm not going to select all of them, but basically these are going to contribute to the attack. And you can actually see our attack in the lower left of the combat planner, and that's increasing every time we take one of these artillery pieces. So let's go ahead, we'll accept that, and we're going to keep on moving through the line here. Let's go ahead, plan an attack. Now, you don't need to plan an attack the way I'm doing it. You could actually just go ahead and just charge right in. I'll show you guys that in a second. Right now, it looks like the success of this attack is poor. I'm still going through with it, but as you can see, it's not looking too great for our boys. And over here, so for instance, if I don't want to plan out the attack, I can really just go all units attack. And over here, you get to decide whether you want to minimize losses, limit losses, or ignore losses, etc. I understand what you guys mean. Are there alternatives to NATO counters? So as far as I know, no. I don't think there are any alternatives to the NATO counters. But keep in mind that this is very much a community-driven game. So like I said, a lot of these scenarios were created by community members. I'm sure if somebody wanted to make something different, that would probably be a possibility. Again, I don't know much about modding, so I'm just guessing here. Now, we are going to end our turn pretty soon here and turn it over to the allies. I just want to make sure I've carried out at least a few attacks. And we're not going for any sort of victory in this battle. We're just kind of trying to show you guys the many different possibilities in this particular game. Let's go ahead and grab these guys. 1, 2. Over the line, boys. Get over the trenches. And we'll take a bunch of these artillery pieces. Another thing to keep in mind is the game has not just campaigns. It's also got battles, single battles that are much smaller than some of the campaigns. And really, I would consider this a campaign because essentially Kaiserschlacht, it's sort of the end of the war. But it could actually take quite a while to finish this particular fight. So the likelihood of success of this attack is poor. We're probably not going to go too far, but we're going to send our men over the top. So there is a way to end the turn here in this box right here where you see map, reports, units. Personally, and I don't know why, I think it's just habit, I like to end the turn this way. Now, the thing about the Operational Art of War 4 is there are a number of turns within a turn, and it's very hard to understand that unless you go to the Matrix YouTube channel and take a look at our video on time. So it's a short tutorial I've made on time in this game, but basically there are several steps to each combat procedure. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to just end the turn here, and we're going to resolve all attacks. All right, there we go. Another nice attack. Thanks, Muso. Appreciate that. So yeah, guys, that's the time management tutorial, which will help you understand how the rounds work in this game a little bit better. And if you guys look at the bottom, you can actually see what's happening in each of the rounds. Now, we're going to get more in depth to that later because we actually get a lot of information. So as you can see here, approximately 90% of your turn remains. I'll be honest, that's a great question. I don't know why. I'm not hearing any sound in my headphones right now. We've got everything we can to make sound work. So let me try this. I don't know if it's going to help, but let's see if this works to get the sound up. And we'll go ahead and actually, let's open the volume mixer. Everything should be good. Here we go. I don't want it to be too loud because if we make it too loud, we won't be able to hear anything except the battle sound. So we'll put it at about 10. Let's put it at 9, actually. And hopefully you guys can hear this now. Give me 1 second. So I'm still not hearing anything through my headphones, but I'm hoping you guys can hear it. Anybody hear the sound right now? Let us know. Okay, good. That's good. So that's perfect. So we hear some music. Very cool. Okay, guys, now this is important. We've now gotten to the combat results of the first attack we did. Now, if you look over here, the friendly losses on our side are 33%, friendly losses on the enemy side 34%. And this gives the location of where this combat happened, the type of land where it happened, etc., and of course the news. So we're going to take a look here at one of the attacks, one of the ones where we were more successful. I'm going to click this one and look at the amount of information we are getting. This is unbelievable. You can almost literally get every specific thing that each unit did during the battle. If we look over here, we're going to look at the defender losses button. So that would be the allies. And look at this. We engaged 40, we disabled 8 light rifle squads, destroyed 14, total losses for the enemy light rifle squad, 22. In other words, we did some pretty good damage. Now let's take a look at the attacker losses button. And of course, these are our men. They also took some serious losses. You've also got to keep in mind that each of these squads, since this is World War I, might be a lot bigger than a squad, you know, of maybe 12, 13 men that you're used to. So these squads could be hundreds of men, especially since this is World War I. You know, you really have to use your imagination. And also, in the pre-battle setup, you can actually read the type of units you're using and sort of the size of those units. Okay, let's take a look here. All right, we've gotten a nice look at World War I. You guys want to do another turn, or should we look at yet another conflict, guys? What do you think? Really want to try to fit in as many conflicts as I can during this particular stream. So let's see. Yes, many more. Brooding Phobos wants us to play Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor is probably the one I won't touch, but it's a good suggestion. So yes, I'm definitely getting a lot of... Start a new one. I can see you guys want to try to see everything. So we're going to take a look at another war here. Now, we've also got some pretty cool World War I conflicts in addition to Kaiserschlacht, such as Gallipoli, you know, stuff like this, the Eastern Front of 1915. But we're going to jump into our theater selection screen, okay? And we're going to take a look at... Why don't we take a look at one of the modern wars? Yes. So I'm going to go into modern miscellaneous. We've got the Falklands War. We've got Grenada, 1983. We actually had a question regarding this earlier. We also got an alternative history scenario as the United States, the second U.S. Civil War. What about the 1805 one, says Dave? Interesting. And yes, that's a really good question, Amianis. Yugoslavia is actually probably one of my favorite missions. Now, I have a friend who actually works on this game who he can't stand it because it is complicated. So we'll head back. We'll take a look here at modern... I believe it should be in modern European, but actually it might be right here in hypothetical studies. Let's take a look. Okay, once again, we'll look at modern miscellaneous. I might also do Cuba 62. So this is the attempted invasion of Cuba, also known as the Bay of Pigs. But I think what we're going to be taking a look at today is the First Chechen War. So here we go, guys. And this is another very complex war, Amianis. This is a more modern conflict. For those of you that don't know about this particular war, I'll try to give you the best explanation I can. Now, I'm going to be playing as the Federal Forces of Russia against the Chechen resistance. But essentially, Chechnya wanted independence from Russia. This is, of course, a country that, Chechnya specifically, that is majority Islamic. It's a very conservative sort of country. And when the Russians actually attacked post-fall of the wall, so this was the Federal Republic of Russia, not the USSR, and when they went in the first time, they expected to pretty much overrun the Chechens, but what ended up happening is they managed to destroy the city of Grozny, the Chechen capital, and once they destroyed Grozny, the Russians moved in, and the Chechens cut them off. Completely cut them off from the rest of their forces, and there was pretty much a massacre of Russian forces. And of course, this is a very controversial conflict. That's another reason I love this game. It features a lot of extremely controversial conflicts because... Yeah, exactly. Destroy Grozny, you're done. Because Chechens would argue that the Russian Spetsnaz forces also carried out a number of war crimes. The Russians claim that the Chechen forces carried out a number of war crimes. We really don't know. We can only kind of assume. So here we go. The situation briefing has begun, and here we go, guys. Russians begin their assault on Grozny. Russians suffer heavy losses. Maikop brigade is a total loss. That was one of the brigades that was captured by the Chechens. UN refuses to recognize Chechnya's independence. Okay, here we go, guys. So first things first. Well, there are definitely battle sounds, Zach. I think you'll be hearing them pretty soon. So we've got a few units here, but as you can see, we're not using really too many military units. There's a lot of police units here because this happens so quickly that, you know, certainly a lot of police units had to get involved. Another thing right now is I have border mode on, so as I'm moving my units forward, I can actually see the border growing over here. Another thing we can do, we can actually go to view, and for, let's see, where is this? One moment. Okay, here we go. So for possession, we could also take flags. I like the flag system. Not everybody likes it. And basically what this shows is our area of control, okay? So I'm going to be moving forward. We've got some units here, some Spetsnaz units. For those of you that don't know what the Spetsnaz are, these are essentially Russian special forces. So we're going to move them forward. We're going to move the rest of our MPs forward as well. And really the goal is to get to Grozny. Grozny, we're going to zoom out just a bit here, is actually, I believe, right there. No, it's a bit bigger than that. Let's keep looking. So we're surrounded in Grozny, as a matter of fact. There we go. So this is Grozny. We can already see some enemy forces, and in fact, we can also see that the enemy have some mercenaries. They've got some self-defense forces. There are even units here, and I'm not kidding. There are even units of Russian or Chechen mafia forces that help the Chechens in this scenario. Let's take a look here just a second. So people were asking about location grids. We'll go ahead and do that for you guys. This allows you to see things in grid pattern, of course. All right, let's keep going, guys. Group move. Hi, Dave says, this game looks so good. I agree with you, Dave. I do. And I'm actually still playing the scenario, this particular scenario, on my work computer. You heard that right. But we were actually sort of practicing for this stream. So I'm still trying to win as the Russians. It's a tough one. It's definitely a tough one. And you can kind of tell because Chechnya, we're going to zoom out a bit here. You can see that we've got forces coming in from up here in the north. We've also got some forces coming from over here in the west. But for the most part, Chechnya is cut off. And all of these mountains, all of these hills are going to make it very hard for us to move through. Not to mention that there is a large amount of Chechen guerrilla forces. We need to keep moving our forces forward. I'm going to move my HQ forward. Now, HQs should remain fairly close to your men. I'm not going to say they need to be 1 or 2 or 3 tiles away. Suffice it to say, you should keep your HQs pretty close. Just that simple. Keep your HQs close. You want them to be able to join the fight. Well, not join the fight, but you want them to be able to give some support to your men. And being close is one way of doing that. As far as supply, if you see this button up here in the upper left corner of the map, we can actually take a look at the supply and how it extends. So right now, obviously up here, there's the most supply, and if here, a lot less, basically. Not much less, but a bit less. Over here to the west, we've got some supply as well, but as you start moving off the beaten path, you're going to get into areas where you have no supply at all. Amiana says, Bloody Caucasus. And B. Vargas says, reminds me of Fall of Shanghai. Nationalist China had triad militia helping them versus the Japanese. Very, 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 very similar, yeah. When I saw my first Chechen mafia unit, I reread it and was like, are you sure that's not militia? No, it was Chechen mafia. Which I thought was really interesting. So another thing that's happened here is the Chechens have declared independence. So that's why they have these security forces, the MVD. And what this basically is, it's the Chechen Provisional Government. These guys aren't as vicious as a lot of the Chechen international brigades, essentially Islamic radicals that come from other countries, things like that. But we still need to take them out. You know, this is our country. Chechnya does not have any independence. We do not accept it. So we're going to go ahead and start planning our attacks. And as you can see here, the Chechens, they don't have much. It's just some security forces there. And just sending 1 tank unit, chances of success are excellent. But I want to send in a rifle division as well, just to clean up the area from any stragglers. Sounds kind of mean, but this is war. And war is hell, as you guys know. Once again, we're going to send this guy in. I could possibly get some support here. In fact, we can definitely get some Mi-24 helicopters to support the attack. So we're taking 3 groups, and we don't really need them, but let's bring them in anyway. Take this guy, attack over here, plan an attack. Now, be forewarned, when the Russians first moved into Chechnya, they thought this was just going to be an easy war, no issues whatsoever, and it kind of looks like that right now. But the deeper we get into this country to try and save our boys trapped in Grozny, the crazier things are going to get. You're going to see. These Chechens know how to fight, and they are not fans of Russians, not at all. So we've also got this helicopter right here. This is an Mi-24. A lot of the units on the map, such as the Mi-24 as an example, are not units that you necessarily have to have near an enemy to get into combat. They can actually act as support units. And you're absolutely right, Brooding Phobos, very dirty conflict. So let's go ahead. We're going to plan an attack here. And wish our boys luck. So right now, likelihood of success is very poor, as you can see. Let's see, maybe if we bring in some Mi-24s, we can increase that. But I think that unfortunately for us, this is going to be just a tough fight. We could cancel the fight, but I'm not going to do that. Once again, if I was going through an entire campaign, I would cancel that. But I want you guys to see as much action as possible. Let's group move forward. And I think we can take out, yep, sure enough. And there we go. I'm sure you guys heard some battle sounds there, or should have. Since these guys are so weak, the security force, we don't even have to wait for the battle phase. They essentially just get defeated immediately. And look at that, we've taken Besherovo. Very cool. So I'm going to see if we can wipe these guys out. Yes, beautiful. And we'll start moving towards this security force with the Mountain Brigade. Looks like the Gorny Battery Brigade. So Besherovo has been liberated. Liberated. In this war, there's not much liberation going on. Success is poor. I'm going to bring in the rest of our Mi-24s to assist, and hopefully they can help tremendously. So these are the planned combats. We can also take a look at those. And over here, you've got the time expended, so basically how long the battle actually takes. And once again, to get more info on time expended, you're absolutely going to want to go and watch the tutorial that we created. It's really, really helpful to give you guys an idea of how that works. Here we go. Davni is in Russian hands. And we've also gotten rid of these fake police forces. Let's be fair. We don't respect their sovereignty. As far as I'm concerned, they're fake. As for these units right here, the opposition fighters, they're actually working for us. So keep in mind, Chechnya has declared independence. There are still Chechens that want to remain part of Russia. And those are the guys we're dealing with right now. The other thing that's concerning to me is we've got an actual transport helicopter here that can move some of the Chechens around. So I'd really like to move these security units to attack that unit, but I'm not sure that's the right idea, because then we're leaving these cities open, basically. Well, that's actually a good point. Amianis makes a really interesting point. There's a lot of different things in this game that come into play in terms of how your actions could affect negatively or positively your forces. Now, this is not true in every scenario, but as an example, in a lot of these scenarios, if you take a city, especially a big city, refugees will leave that city. And what that'll actually do is that will decrease the movement time of the enemy army or of your army, depending on where the refugees are headed. In other words, there are so many different scripted events that can happen because of your actions in this game. It all depends on the scenario creator. So yes, just about anything is possible. Let's go ahead, and I am going to move the security unit out. I know I said I wouldn't, but I want to get on this road and see if we don't spot the enemy, and we do, in fact. So I'm going to attack this strike group, and actually, nice. It looks like our opposition fighters got rid of it pretty quickly. Beautiful. Keep it up, boys. Wow, look at that. We are just knocking it around at this point. Yeah, he doesn't have much going for him, unfortunately. Unfortunately for him, fortunately for us. And let's actually take this security unit and get back into Nizhny Inkot. So there we go. Now we're protecting it with our own police force, the MVD police force. And we're going to end our turn, guys. Wish us luck. Here we go. Now, if you see that right there, do you guys just see that explosion that happened randomly? Now, that gets a little more complicated. And what that's called is interdiction. Basically, depending on how many air units you have, or the layout of the map, how aggressive your air forces are, there is a chance that your air forces will actually hit targets as they move across the map during your turn or during the enemy's turn, which I think is very realistic because for those of you that aren't aware, in a lot of modern combat, you know, planes do patrol missions over enemy territory, try to spot some enemies, and occasionally you get lucky and you get to hit a target, which really helps you out in this game. So I can't wait to see the results of the combat here, but it looks like we may have retaken some cities. Of course, we're not that much closer to Grozny, and I fear by the time we get there, our men are going to be dead. So here we go, federal attack. Look at that, we did really great. Look at this. So this was just a bombardment. This goes to show you how strong a bombardment can be. So as you can see, these bombardments all came from our airfields and from air escort units. So let's take a look at the defender losses. In this case, it looks like it was an air battle. Interesting. No worries, Zach. So in this air battle, we totally destroyed the Chechen Air Force. In fact, I'm surprised that they have an Air Force, and I'm also a little offended because they're using MiGs and Su-27s. They're basically using our planes against us. If we want to go into a more detailed combat report, you can look at the combat chart. And this basically shows the rounds of combat and what happened during those rounds. For a more detailed explanation of the chart, you go here to the chart legend. And as you can see, you get a very detailed explanation telling you exactly what happened. There we go. Okay. Oh, thank you, Darren, for showing us. Yeah, we'll definitely work on that. We are PR, so... Or I should say, I'm the PR manager, but I work in the marketing department. So we're probably going to have to let the other departments know about that. Now, something else. You could go and actually hit weather on the right side of the screen, but if you just want to hit the W key, nice little hotkey for you guys, you can see what the weather is like around the map. Looks pretty cloudy, pretty temperate, possibly some rain on the way. I hope not, but we'll have to wait and see. So, we have liberated Nosraya. I'm going to keep on attacking. I know that these units are weak, so let's keep on moving. And sorry, it's Naurskaya. If we keep going down this road, we can actually get to Grozny. But I know what actually happened in the Chechen War, and when the Russian units went down the main road to get to Grozny, what do you guys think happened? They got cut off by the Chechens, and a lot of them were killed. So we're basically following the Russian approach here. But I'm gonna believe that our men can make it through. So we're even sending the police forces in. You know, this is a very unconventional war. I mean, in other words, in this war, it's unconventional for a number of reasons, but one of the main reasons is even the police are essentially acting as military units on our behalf here. And half of the police force has joined the Chechens. So here we go. We're attacking with essentially all of our units. We are hammering that position of provisional militia divisions. So we're basically sending every single one of our units in this attack. We don't even need any air support, although I'll send in 2 Mi-24s just for fun. As you can see, we're attacking a provisional 3rd militia, but there's more than one unit there. There's 4 stacks, so there could be a lot of time there. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Amianas. That was another issue. The Russians attacked in one of the coldest periods, which of course made it a lot harder to get into Grozny to begin with. Now, I kind of want to send this attack helicopter to Grozny to assist it. We could see that the enemy is already trying to surround Grozny, and we don't want that to happen. So I'm actually going to send one of my irregular units over here. I'm going to grab this unit, send him here, and maybe we can go ahead and start attacking some of the enemy police force divisions. But no, look at that, guys. That's scary. Look at that tile. The defender support here is tremendous, and they've got a lot of security divisions here, as well as even air divisions. So I'm not going to attack there. I'm just going to stay on the defensive. In fact, if we right-click right here, we can actually dig in, and that's what I'm going to do. So we're going to dig in with this unit. We're going to dig in with these guys. And we could actually board the helicopters here and leave Grozny. So we basically escape from Grozny if we wanted to, but we're not going to do that. We're going to go ahead and deploy. In fact, destroying the bridges might have been a pretty good idea. So the entire group is digging into Grozny there. Dig in. I want to make sure that we are well defended. And, all right, those guys are attacking. Let's keep on moving through here. Just gonna send a single unit. Nice! Good work, Tank Division. Another town liberated. Now, real quickly, I'm sure you guys have probably guessed this, but if you look at those numbers beneath the unit, on the left is the attack power, on the right is the defense power. Mildolf says, in conventional agreement for playing a game with no Germans. Oh, there's plenty of Germans in this game, just not in this particular scenario. So if you want to take a look at the actual speed of the unit, and I might need to refer back to my own tutorial, but it's right here, actually. So these two arrows that are basically pointing at each other, if we click on this, that's the movement point. So 35 represents how many points the unit can move from where it is right now. Obviously, 0 means it can't move at all. But we're going to go back to just the attack and defense button. We also want to bring our HQ down. What am I doing? Bring this guy over here. Have some kasha inside the village. We will hold the line, General. Send this unit forward, and I'm going to plan an attack. What we also really wanted to do, I'm sure a lot of you guys are unfamiliar with the NATO counters. We really wanted to do a video on NATO counters, but it was something that wasn't really supported by the entire team. So if you guys want to see NATO counters, video on NATO counters, let us know, and we'll see if we can make it happen. Now, this is the one area where likelihood of success is poor that I'm going to go ahead and still attack on. And I'm going to bring these MPs down as well. So let's go ahead, group move. Actually, we could have these MPs join the attack because we've already got several units in the attack. We might as well send them in as well. There we go. All right, guys, ending the turn. Air interdiction. So yeah, it can definitely be seen on Mianis, and I'll actually show you afterwards how you can detect that. And again, you might have to refer to the tutorial again to get specifics, but there's absolutely something that sort of shows you the quality of the units. Thanks, Darren. If you could, Darren, could you you can actually mail us at Slytherin PR, or I should say pr@slytherin.co.uk. Let us know what's going on. So here we go. Look at that. Some of our units actually managed to destroy entire units of Chechens. But for instance, right here, unfortunately, our men did not do well. So if we take a look here at the attacker losses, we definitely lost a lot of men, including some civilian groups. So you can see here we've got civilian groups along with our men. Those are probably referring to the police squads, etc., that are with us. They definitely took a hit. Defenders losses over here. Yeah, the enemy took a hit too, but they won that battle without a doubt. Okay. So guys, what do you think so far? Chechnya or another conflict? We're going to zoom out here just a bit so you guys can see the battlefield control we have right now. You see the Russian flags there. We actually control a good portion of Chechnya right now, but, you know, as we move in, they're going to start to cut us off, that's for sure. Thank you, Muso. Well, let's go ahead and save this just in case we want to come back. Yes, so you want to see the Yugoslavia campaign. Now, I hope that it's still in the game. We may have taken it out for because of the controversial nature. So I'm going to see if we can find it. There it is, Yugoslavia 1999, yes. So, basically, this is a hypothetical invasion. Now, there was a war between NATO and the Serbs during Bill Clinton's presidency. I believe it was 96 or 97. I'm sure one of you guys can correct me on that. But this is actually a hypothetical war. So basically, it's what would happen if NATO actually tried to invade Serbia. And once again, you want to take a look at that map scale, 5 kilometers per hex. That's a big map scale. And, of course, the full day turns. Is there no Yugoslavia 91, Amianis is asking. I'm not sure. I don't think so. I don't think so, unfortunately. There might be. I mean, there are over 200 scenarios in this game, so I very well may have missed one. All right, guys, we're going to jump into another battle here. Let's take a look at World War II Asia. Now, we did the Battle of Iwo Jima already on the last Let's Play we did on this game. So I want to look at something different. I know people want me to try Pearl Harbor, but I'm actually staying away from Pearl Harbor for now. What I am going to do is the Sino-Japanese War of 1937 to 1945. So let's go ahead and select that. And I am going to play as the Chinese. So Japanese computer, awesome. And of course, Chinese Kuomintang, and of course, things like this. So it said we're playing with the wrong equipment file, and if you saw that, I should have actually let you guys read that, because what that said was basically this particular battle comes from an older map from the Operational Art of War 3. So basically, this particular battle might have a few equipment, not really problems, but just a few like things pop up that say this is an older version of the Operational Art of War, because we wanted to try to keep in all of the battles. So we didn't just keep new battles that we created. We wanted to keep the older battles that people enjoyed as well. And yes, we do have World War I. Yes, we do. Thank you, Dave. We'll take another look at it, though. We will. There's no reason why we shouldn't go back to World War I. Plenty of warfare to go around. Okay, so we are playing as the Kuomintang. And as you can see, the news summary here is great. It really depends on basically the person writing the scenario. I've seen some incredible news summaries, some news summaries that talk about refugees escaping cities when they're captured, etc. But we're playing as the Kuomintang, essentially the Republic of China, Chiang Kai-shek, all that fun stuff. But this is a tough war, without a doubt. However, you want to keep in mind that if you're going to be playing a scenario in the Operational Art of War 4, you can go for a shorter scenario, or you can go for an ultra-long one. This one is ultra-long. It really is. So we're going to try to attack this Japanese position, but you can see the success chance is actually quite poor here. And of course, early on in the Sino-Japanese War, that was pretty common. I think we're just going to take a look here at the Sino-Japanese War. We're not going to play it because it is very long. And it actually takes a while to sort of get started. The Japanese are obviously going to be winning initially. So if you guys want to go ahead and post in the chat what kind of war you'd like to see, we'll try to jump into it. I'm going to go ahead and begin a new game. Here we go. And let's take a look. Somebody mentioned World War I, so we'll jump back into one of the World War I scenarios. In fact, I want to take a look at Gallipoli. So let's play Gallipoli as the Australians, rather. Austrians. What sort of alternate history am I talking about? As the Australians. And we'll be playing Allied computer. Oh, sorry. Ottoman Turkey computer versus human player here in the Battle of Gallipoli. And let's jump in. We'll go ahead and take a look here at the events, the history. Thank you, Muso. Very cool. Here we go. That's right. That's right. It's an alternative history where Austria attacks Turkey. Here we go. Okay, guys. So, of course, one thing that's barely mentioned about the Gallipoli campaign, which is quite funny, is there were also French units during the campaign. It wasn't just Australians or British. There were French units, etc. You can, by the way, see some of the naval combat there going on. Fortunately, we lost that guy. Let's see if this guy can get out. But we absolutely have some enemy ships waiting on the coast here to stop us. Now, this particular ship is the Queen Elizabeth. It looks like likely a battleship. And actually, that's right. Somebody mentioned something about how do I know the experience of the units? And that was a really good question. I'm going to try to answer the best way I can. Now, let me make it very clear that any player of the Operational Art of War 4, and I'm sure a lot of you here have played this game before, or have played the Operational Art of War 3, you're going to learn as you go along. So if you look up here on the right-hand side, we now have the units selected. We can look over here. This is sort of like combat initiative. It's at 65. In fact, we'll mouse over it really quickly. 65 over here. The strength of the unit is at 100%. The fuel is at 80%. And over here, we can kind of see essentially the defensive power of the unit, this sort of thing. So you can get a lot of information from that. 65 is not great. I mean, I've certainly seen units with better setups. but you don't always get to choose, am I right? So here we go. We've got the French fleet, Charlemagne. And we want to get some guys, obviously, on land here, but easier said than done. The Turks are everywhere. We're going to go for a port attack. So yes, you can do some attacks just to damage enemy infrastructure. This includes bombing ports, bombing enemy cities, etc. Here we go, guys. Let's board a ship. Entire group. No, we better do single unit boarding. Let's go. So our first infantry brigade has arrived. But, of course, we're going to have to wait until we offload these guys. And I'm actually going to take the whole unit, because now it looks like it's pretty safe, I think. Board ship, entire group. So if anybody wants to share the story of Gallipoli, feel free if you guys feel confident enough. I want to see the knowledge here of Gallipoli. This is one of the most famous battles of World War I. For not necessarily the right reasons, let's put it that way. I definitely want to surround the enemy here and bombard them, so let's group move and start hitting these Turkish units. Alright, here we go, bombardments. And as you can see, sometimes the probability of success is impossible to predict. It's unfortunate, but it's part of the war. So let's go ahead and let's bombard these Turkish units before we send any of our men in, of course. So that's a good question, I'll be honest. We find out in the scenario briefing before the actual game starts. Sometimes it's half a day, sometimes it's a day, sometimes it's a week. You know, it really depends. Let's go ahead and move forward here. So I believe scenario briefing, here we go. So each turn is a full day, indeed. The unit scale are battalions, 14 turns, and of course 2.5 kilometers per hex. Let's go ahead and board ship. Entire group on the ship. Let's go ahead and board the ship here, guys, with the entire group once again. Trying to land on these Ottoman beaches. The young Turks will be there to stop us, but we're ready for some conflict. Thank you, Infantryman for Life. And yeah, I haven't seen you on the stream earlier, but basically, Infantryman for Life, this is a World War I scenario we're playing right now. But in this game, you can actually go all the way from, I believe, 1807 is the first battle we have, to modern day. We've got a ton of battles. All right, let's end the turn. There's not much we can do now except wait for our forces to eventually be able to disembark. And then, of course, the battle begins. So I'm going to go ahead and end the turn it over to the Ottomans. I have no doubt they're going to open fire on some of our locations, and also we're opening fire with our ships on one of their infantry locations. So those are Ottoman flags, I'll be honest. Yeah, that basically denotes the control of that area. So let's see how our ship bombardment did. We only destroyed 8% of the enemy forces, but when you really think about it, 8% out of 100 just due to bombardment is pretty incredible. You also want to keep something in mind. And this is actually a little factoid we had on our questions. And that is, can you guys guess, out of 10, how many British infantrymen went to World War I and returned unwounded and not dead? Out of 10, what would you guys guess? Let's go ahead and press OK. Also, to show a unit report, click right here if you want to get some specifics. And yes, you're absolutely right. It's 9 out of 10. Thanks, Piddle. It's actually 9 out of 10. So you actually were quite likely to survive, believe it or not. You know, you were more likely to survive than to get killed. We're going to go ahead and start attacking here, guys. You can see when we click on these units, they actually turn to infantry units here. And we're going to get some support as well. So we're basically trying to land on the beach. But landing on the beach is not that simple. We've actually got to go for an attack to land on the beach. Let's go plan an attack here. Get all these boys. Hopefully they make it through. And once again, impossible to predict, which is scary to say the least. Now, we could give these guys orders to minimize losses, limit losses, ignore losses. Those are actually what is represented by the 2 dots next to the unit. But generally, I go for the middle. If I'm especially angry, I'll go for ignore losses. So let's go ahead. Is there any limit to how many units you can have in one scenario? That's a good question. Is there the effect of dehydration or something similar reenacted? Yes, absolutely. I don't know about dehydration, but being out of supply, for instance, you know, that can absolutely be reenacted. Thank you, KT8. And believe me, you're not going to need 10,000 units. You're not going to need it. Keep that in mind, guys. So there we go. Our allied attack on land seems to have gone really well, believe it or not. Let's take a look here at the defenders' losses. And it looks like we pretty much, well, we didn't wipe out the enemy here, but we did a nice number on them. And of course, we're not going to land on these beaches without some losses ourselves. So unfortunately, some light rifle squads, skirmishers, etc. got taken out. That's too bad. That is too bad. As you can see, though, now these guys are on land. They could start pushing out and basically trying to take the fight to the enemy. This is definitely something they could do. Or, of course, they could take the much easier route of just playing it safe. You could do any number of things here. All right, guys, we've gotten a look at Gallipoli. I think we want to go ahead and move to a new battle. Again, what we're trying to do here is give you guys basically as much information about the game as possible, show you as many of the scenarios as possible, and just show you all the possibilities in this game. So right now, what I want to do is I want to show you the really old stuff, the oldest stuff we have. So let's go ahead, open, and I believe it would be in the pre-World War I area. So let's go to pre-World War I. And you can actually play the Battle of Antietam. For those of you that don't know, the Battle of Antietam was a battle in the American Civil War, one of the bloodiest after Gettysburg. And we've even got it. Actually, I've seen this for the first time. We've got a call to arms. So we can actually play as the Americans in the American Revolution. Fascinating. Possibly, Darren. Possibly. Good question. We've also got the Battle of Waterloo. And yeah, so we see a few people want us to play in the Balkans. Amianis wants the Balkan Wars. Scheidmal wants Leipzig, 1813. Thank you, Meadolf. Let's take a look at Leipzig. So I actually don't know anything about this conflict. Very little. Apparently, we are playing as the French against the Austrians and the Russians. So I'm going to play as the French. I guess Allied computer. I'm not sure who the allies are in this battle. Let's try this. So let's just take a look at this scenario. And of course, this is one of the older ones. It just goes to show you just how far back we can go. And after this, I want to show you guys our Gulf War scenario to show you the more modern stuff. Wow. Look at this. There's a very European flag right there. All right, so we're definitely playing as the Austrians. And we've got some Russians over here. I guess we're trying to move towards Leipzig right there, and that's where the French are, of course. Ah, the French. Okay, well, we're going to start our movement. Another thing I think this is very important. So we mentioned this in the tutorial, but I'll mention it right now. If you guys take a look here, if I move forward over here, it's going to take one movement turn away. You guys see that? If we move over here, it's going to take 3 turns. Can you guys guess why? This area is a river tile. Basically, the river is running all through the tile, so it's going to lower movement. Now, over here, yes, there is a river, but it's a quick crossing, and there's also a bridge on this river, so that's going to make crossing even quicker. There we go. Yeah, that's a great question about the EU flag. I'm sure that's just either the flag the scenario creator wanted to select to represent the Allied powers, or just a minor mistake, which can be changed very easily. All right, we've got some Russians here as well. And as you can see in this scenario, movement is taking a little while longer. Remember, we're moving earlier, okay? So this is 1817, or 1813. So movement is not as fast as it is in our modern scenarios, as you can see. You know, in our modern scenarios, we could cover way more ground than this. But in this one, not so much. French left to you there by now. Yes, exactly, Frexit. Well said. Okay, here we go. So this just goes to show you the difference in movement from, you know, a more modern conflict to an older conflict, and also the difference of battlefield information. You can see this battlefield's a lot more bare. There's just not as much information, not as much build-up as you would see in a more modern scenario. And I definitely don't see the enemy. Okay. Now, once again, as far as the headquarters go, there are some things you're going to want to look at the manual for. In general, I keep my headquarters close to my men. The headquarters are absolutely going to provide some benefits to your men, so they're definitely worth having around. And again, be very careful. Call them headquarters, because with one of my colleagues that actually works in another department, I kept saying general, and he's like, no, headquarters. And he's right, because the headquarters doesn't always mean that there's a general there. It could be a colonel, you know, it could be a lieutenant. You really don't know. So you basically just want to keep that headquarter unit close. Just keep it close. Got some Russian reserves. Yeah, Mildorf, sorry, but yeah, with that, you know, we just, and of course, none of us here at Slytherin support any sort of movement like the Nazis, but we do like historical accuracy. You know, if we were able, we would like to have the real flag, the swastika from the time period, to represent, you know, the great evil of the time period. But, you know, we have a lot of players of this game that are from Germany, a lot of players from Poland, etc., where it's just illegal. It's not legal for us to actually sell the game with that. Now, could you potentially make your own scenario, or edit your own scenario that you could play privately using that flag? I think you probably could. Again, I'm not an editor, I'm not a modder or an editor, so I can only guess, but I think you probably could. And look at this. What is Tsar Alexander? Did you guys see that? Tsar Alexander. My goodness, the Tsar has come to the fight. That is interesting. All right, let's group move. Okay, Poland, it is legal. I know in other countries, there's other countries besides Germany. It might be the Czech Republic that don't allow that flag to be flown. Maybe Austria. Okay. So guys, this is much more, as you can see, a slower battle. We're going to go ahead and end the turn and see if we can spot any enemies, any French enemies soon. We might not, though. And next I'm going to take a look at either Korea, the Korean War, or we're going to take a look at the Gulf War. So let's actually put that, Muso, could you do a straw poll for Gulf War or Korean War? and then we'll decide who we play as. So basically which side we play as. I'll tell you right now, if we're playing the Gulf War, we're not playing as Iraq because you're just going to get absolutely crushed. Thank you, Shine Doll. The improved maps in UI look so good compared to the Operational Art of War 3. I agree 100%. 100%. Oh, so the French have definitely moved into position. Yes, it does, Vargas. That's a great suggestion. It does have the Iran-Iraq War as well. We might be taking a look at that too. So the French have definitely attacked us, and actually they look quite strong compared to us. Let's see what sort of casualties we've taken, and then we'll jump into our new war. So yes, we do have the Gulf War. We've got the Korean War. We don't have the Congo War. I don't believe we do. I wish we did. But honestly, it would be very hard to recreate the Congo War because there are so many different factions involved. I mean, they're fighting to this day. You know, the Democratic Republic of Congo and Congo proper, there's still wars going on there. So I think recreating that would just be too difficult. Ah, interesting. So Garis makes an interesting point. As long as it's not used for political reasons. Interesting. Cool, cool. Thank you, Muso. All right, guys, let's go to the straw poll and vote. See what we want to see next. Yeah, I'll be honest. Unfortunately, we do have the recreated 1999 version, but it would be too complex. And for basically the similar reasons as to why we couldn't do a lot of other wars like the Congo War. There's just so many factions. There's a lot of questions to be asked. It would be very hard to do it properly, basically. All right, let's see what you banditos have chosen here on the straw poll. Ooh, Gulf War is winning right now with 4 votes. I'm going to give you guys another, let's say 30 seconds. In fact, at 5 our time, so that's a minute. 5 our time, we'll go ahead and decide. And man, these French are not stopping their attack. This is just continuous attacks against us. Five to 4, guys, for the Gulf War. So if anybody wants to jump in there and select Korea, make sure to do that. Of course, we'll take a look at both anyway, but which will we take a look at first? That's the question. Ooh, yeah, sorry about that. I think we're going to have to be doing Gulf War first for the Korean War boss. We're definitely going to go with Gulf War first. And in this, you're going to see the power of air interdiction. So you can really see just how massive the air interdiction can be in this game. And remember, just to remind you guys, air interdiction, and I'm once again explaining these in layman's terms. It's much more complicated than how I'm explaining it. But basically, air interdiction is the ability of your Air Force to spot targets at the end of a turn. So if enemy units are moving and you've got a large Air Force, and again, you don't have to do anything by yourself. A lot of the stuff in the game, such as replacements, reinforcements, you know, airstrikes, things like this, can be controlled by the AI. So the AI will take over that if you don't. And there is a chance, basically, that your air forces will find an enemy target and manage to bombard it. And in the Gulf War, you can imagine, we're going to have a lot of air interdiction, a whole lot, because we're definitely going to be playing as the Americans. And man, does this war ever end? This 1813 war is taking a long time. I don't think we've ever had such a long battle there. There we go. Wow, that was intense. Look at this. So a tremendous amount of actual issues here. And as you guys, somebody asked about modifying flags, read right here what this says. The scenario uses a modified equipment file as well as several modified graphics files. which leads me to believe that if you're looking to add a flag to the game, that's probably possible. Now you can see here, the French attacking us, they hardly had any losses whatsoever. However, they completely annihilated us, just crushing us. We'll take a look at the defender report. Oh my goodness, look at that. The loss report on our side is horrific. I think it's basically our entire army. Yeah, it really is. Unbelievable. So you can see the French are definitely on the warpath. All right, we're going to refresh the results once more. And yeah, Gulf War wins. Take care, Zach. Thanks, man. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Okay, guys, we're going to go ahead, begin new game. Desert Storm, baby. Here we go. So, I definitely want to play as the Coalition. So let's jump in, guys. I wonder if we have any Gulf War veterans watching the stream. Now, I want you guys to read this note. This is quite important, okay? And you're going to get this for some of the maps that were created prior to the game. Like I said, we didn't want to just throw away a lot of the Operational Art of War 3 maps because, you know, those were actually, there were a lot of really great maps in the game. So we put this warning to make sure that you guys know that some of the terrain hexes are not going to look the way they do in the more modern maps that we've created just for the Operational Art of War 4. And you can always just turn that warning off. So you can go ahead and check that off and check. There we go. Let's take a look. You guys are going to be very surprised. Look at this. Look at this. And that is the correct flag. That's the United Nations flag. Remember, we're playing as the coalition forces. So there's actually several countries represented. And look at this. Look at the Iraqi forces. In fact, we're going to back up. Just look at that. That is a scary battle, is it not? So we've got a lot of Iraqi forces ahead of us. And of course, we're trying to get over here to An-Nasiriyah. We're not going to Baghdad because, remember, this is mostly, I believe, in Kuwait, if I'm not mistaken. Nope, I was wrong. This is the border of Iraq. But we're not going all the way to Baghdad, just sort of the initial part of Iraq and not going there. Thank you for your service, infantryman. Thank you very much for your service. So we're going to start moving forward, guys. Group moves, basically. Get really close to the enemy here. And we're going to see if our American tank power can wipe out some of this Iraqi infantry power. But you're going to see what happens with the interdiction. It's absolutely insane. Now, this is one of those battles that takes a while. So keep in mind that you want to be very, very careful. We always like to have veterans watch our games. It's actually really makes me happy when we've got some veterans that enjoy our products, like to play our games. And you know, my father was a veteran. He fought in Vietnam as a first lieutenant, and he's glad that there are, you know, games like this that allow him to sort of relive that experience. Because, you know, let's be honest, war is not all bad. There are parts of war that are horrific. But there are also parts of war, I'm sure you can confirm this, infantryman for life, that are exciting, that people enjoy, that, you know, people want to be a part of, the camaraderie, you know, the moments in battle where you're actually helping your friends, things like this. And I'm really glad that you guys follow us and enjoy our games. It makes me very, very happy. Let's group move up here. Now, if we were actually doing like a Let's Play scenario, I would take a lot longer to identify the specific points here. But we're not, so I'm going to move a little faster than we otherwise would. But I think we'll still end up pretty good. Thanks, KT. I will do that. I will not do that, I should say. Fairly new feature. All right, here we go, guys. So once again, it takes a long time in this particular battle to get all of the forces in the right locations. This is a bit of a longer one, but I still want to end turn one because I want you guys to see that air interdiction. And I want you guys to see how well we're going to do on this first attack. When I first looked at this map, I was like, oh my goodness, this war looks a lot harder than I anticipated it to be. No. No. I mean, the entire game is going to be a little bit hard. You know, you're not just going to win a battle or a game within the operational art of war by doing nothing. You still have to, you know, think. But the American firepower, or I should say the coalition firepower during this war is incredible. It really is. Oh, that's awesome, Infantryman for life. Been playing these games for over 20 years. Very cool. What branch did you serve in, Infantryman for life? I'm assuming U.S. Army? Maybe Marines? Here we go. Also, guys, we do have, speaking of that, we also have a Vietnam scenario. We don't just have a Vietnam War scenario. We have several, but not just that, okay? We also have a Vietnam scenario from when the French were there. Many of you know the final battle as Dien Bien Phu, when basically the French main base was overrun by the North Vietnamese army. So we also have it from a French perspective, but I will say it's not beginner friendly. If you're playing as the French, be prepared for a serious fight. Look at that, guys. So we're already beginning attacks, and we're already actually beginning to break through. Not all of the enemy units here are going to be able to hold that against us. So let's go ahead. We're going to start selecting some units. Impossible to predict. I trust in my tanks. I'll even bring in some attack helicopters to assist. But I think our boys will break through pretty easily. Take these tanks right here, too. So this one is called a TF Muthana. These might be Kuwaiti forces. I'm not sure, because I'm not familiar with the name. Muthana. Remember, there are various countries represented here. Let's plan an attack here. Boom, boom. No, here, chances of success are very poor. We might move some reinforcements up, though, and change that quickly. Yeah, I agree with you, Audie. I love the combat planner myself. Let's try that attack again. So here we go. Back to the combat planner. Now we've got some support. It's poor, but it's going to increase. Don't worry. It looks like not all units can attack, and I'm actually not sure why. So basically, when your units can attack, you're going to get a little red chit that's going to pop up. As you can see right here, it's popping up on top. But for whatever reason, these guys cannot. It's a little strange. Nonetheless, I'm going to bring in some air superiority here. The likelihood of success is poor. Oh, wait a minute. Now we can. Ooh, that's interesting. So maybe it had something to do with transport choppers. Very interesting. Probability of success is fair. We're getting somewhere, guys. We're getting somewhere. Probability of success is excellent. That's what I'm talking about. Now remember, I'm not going to move the entire front line, because if we back up here, getting the entire front line on the front could be its very own stream, which, by the way, guys, I love this game. So if you want me to do future streams on it, particularly streams that focus on just one battle, let me know, and we can absolutely get that started. I'm going to go ahead and get some more attacks going. Let's bring in those transport choppers again. That seems to help big time. Fair is good enough. Let's go for fair. Two, three, four, five. Bring in some of these bad boys and some air support. So even here, our chance for success is poor. We'll try to bring in all the air support we can muster. And just keep looking at our attack right here. You know, that's increasing every time we select some more air support. Yes, absolutely, Amianis. So I would actually recommend, I'll show you guys in a second. We'll actually play the battle I recommend for beginners here in a second. And Amianis, I understand what you're saying about so we can learn something. You know, the real goal of today was to show the game off to as many people as we can. The goal of today was not to play a single battle, but we could certainly make that the goal of a future stream. So, you know, we want to try and show everybody what the game has to offer today. We're not so much concerned with playing an entire battle. Let's go ahead and group move these guys up here, and I'm going to try to hit that enemy HQ. 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't have much air support left, but it's going to have to do. Yeah, exactly, I'm being honest. That's the issue. Otherwise, I would love to play an entire battle, but I really want everybody to get the opportunity to see, hopefully, most of what they want to see, not everything. Now, we're going to end this turn, and I want you guys to pay close attention. We're probably going to get a lot of air interdiction here. So if you take a look at air assistance, or AS, I'm not sure what this stands for. And in fact, we've got somebody here from, where is KT? So KT can actually give us a lot of information. What this is basically the side AS, INT, and lost. This is the air screen. You can see that our air power essentially is 9. The enemy air power, thank you, that's what it is. Air superiority. Thank you, KT. So our air superiority is 9, the enemy's is 0, okay? What that means is that we can essentially bomb these infantry units without any cause for concern at all. It's not an issue. So we're going to end the turn here, and hopefully we'll get some air interdiction here. So let's go ahead and end the turn. Now, we could move more units, and obviously if you were actually playing this, you probably should. But we're just going to resolve all attacks now. And as you can see, Baghdad is in the very upper north of the actual map. Now, whether or not you guys can get all the way to Baghdad, I'm not so sure. That depends on how well you play. There we go. There's some air interdiction. Actually, no, that was a planned combat. That's our attack, our initial attack, working out really well. Thanks, KT. So yeah, I had mentioned a little bit about that earlier, which is basically the AI will handle your replacements, your reinforcements, and your air attacks. You could, of course, handle these things on your own, but I find it a lot easier, especially for newer players, just to let the AI do it. And as KT said, it really does help. It's actually quite good, very effective. Okay, 50% of our turn remains. So I didn't actually see any airstrikes there. Maybe we'll end another turn and see if it happens, because when I played this battle, and of course, no battle is going to play the same every time, and which is a good thing, okay? In this case, I didn't see any real air attacks. We did get some bombardments over here, some coalition airfield attacks, basically trying to wipe out, you know, the airfields that the Iraqis have. The loss report there, we completely destroyed all of the MiGs on the ground. As you can imagine, the Iraqis are getting a lot of Russian-made fighters and bombers. And if we go here at our coalition attack, we did a great attack here. Our boys moved in here. We've got the Saratoga Division, the 24th Mech Division, and look at the losses for the Iraqi army. Unbelievable losses here. We've got enemy units disabled, destroyed. Overall, just like in real life, they have been totally crushed. And yes, thank you, Strategos. Absolutely. So it is done during opponent turns. And I will show that to them in 1 second, KT. Let me just show you our turn. So as you can see, our loss report is 0. We didn't lose anybody, which much like the Gulf War, I mean, there were some casualties in the Gulf War, but not nearly as many casualties as in most wars. So what KT is talking about is right here on the right side. We can actually see the air superiority. Ours is 56 and lost. It looks like we lost 3 jets, fighters, bombers, etc. The enemy lost 16. Essentially, these 16 that were lost, the even funniest thing is that they were probably destroyed on the ground because we hit an air base. So these guys were more than likely destroyed right on the ground there before they could even take off. I'm guessing our guys got hit by SAMs, and they'll probably return. So we're going to keep on moving here. I'm going to play one more turn on this particular map because I want to see if we can get that air interdiction happening. If it doesn't happen, no worries, but I want to see if we can get it to happen because once we get that air support, the Iraqi army goes from looking kind of strong to completely powerless very quickly. So let's go ahead here. Here we go. Boom, boom, boom. And then I'll take a look at the Korean War scenario, which, interestingly enough, is the scenario I would recommend for new players. And more importantly, I'd recommend you play as North Korea. As you know this saying, North Korea is best Korea. But no, it really was, at least during the war initially in the 1950s. I would recommend you start as North Korea because you not only surprise the South Koreans, you get some pretty elite units to start with, which can really help you get through the game, essentially. All right, let's end the turn here, and then we'll move on to Korea. Yes, I'm honest. Absolutely. You can see which ones we lost. I'll show you here in a second how you would see that, even in an air battle, for instance. So no, we still haven't gotten any air interdiction. Well, actually, we have over here, as you guys can see, enemy loss is 100%. How can I put this? Our air force is still bombarding the enemy airfields, but during my campaign, what happened was essentially, I'll show you guys here in a second, this entire line, basically the entire Iraqi line was bombarded, and they just had basically a few units around. So yeah, we'll take a look at the planes here quickly. So let's take a look at our losses, attacker loss, and it looks like we lost an A-10 Thunderbolt. He was actually just disabled, which means that he probably managed to make it back to base and land, but you know, the plane is badly disabled. We did, however, lose one Tornado ADV. It was actually completely destroyed. And we lost, well, we had 2 Falcons basically damaged badly enough that they're disabled. And of course, the AI will take care of repairing these particular planes, fixing them up. So that's how you'd see that. Ah, that makes sense, KT. That totally makes sense. Do you think we should go another turn or jump to Korea? So what KT is saying, which makes a lot of sense, is up here in the north, the Iraqis have some airfields. And what our Air Force is doing right now, the AI, is it's focusing on those airfields, which is actually tactically a much better idea. Because once you wipe out the enemy Air Force, they can't get any sort of support, and they're in a lot of trouble. You know, they're not going to make it out of there easily. Sure, Amianis will wait. Fair enough. We'll wait another turn, guys. So we're going to go another turn versus the enemy. Now, ostensibly, we should have a lot more units forward right now. But like I said, we're not doing this to play an entire campaign. We're just doing this to kind of show you guys some features. Otherwise, all of these guys, some of these guys near Kuwait City or Khalid Military City, etc., would all be here on the front lines. We're not doing that this time, though. So we'll go ahead and end the turn. Presto, that's actually a question I don't know the answer to. That's a good question. KT can give you an answer for that one for sure. Let's go ahead and end the turn. All right, now it is the Iraqi turn. Let's see what they do. No, I want the computer to play Iraq. Here we go. Ooh, so they actually fought back a bit. My goodness. And there we go, guys. You're starting to see the bombardments there. That's all interdiction. You see that? That is all interdiction. Now we're starting to bomb the enemy. And this is what actually happened during the Gulf War. Look at that air support. You know, the infantry would roll through just groups of burned out enemy vehicles and just be like, my goodness, we don't even have an enemy to fight because the air power that we're using on an open desert is massive. So you guys see that? This is all air interdiction, guys. Absolutely amazing. Keep it up, boys. I'm really glad we stuck with that end turn. That was a good call, Amianis. Oh man, they are getting hit hard. Look at that. They're trying to escape the air attacks, but they can't. We see you guys. We see you all. Very glad to hear that, John Kaminsky. Dave Zizou says, oh yeah, air power, and you bet. I mean, when you see what the Iraqi army looks like after this and how easy it is to defeat them, at least this initial force, you're going to be amazed. Look at that air interdiction. Keep it up, boys. I love it. Can you win that scenario, I'll be honest, as Iraqis? I mean, technically in this game, you can do just about anything. So yes, I guess you could technically win as the Iraqis. Although I would put your chances of winning as the Iraqis at about 2 to 3%. Very, very hard. It's actually easier to lose as the coalition than it is to win as the Iraqis, if that makes sense. Yes, truly shock and awe. That's absolutely the case here. Absolutely shock and awe. Wow, that was unbelievable. That was just unbelievable. And it's still going on. In fact, our units are getting hit too by some air interdiction. It's very minor, but it looks like we haven't destroyed all of the enemy planes. And look at that, it continues! We've got more bombers. I love it. I just love it. And absolutely, Dave, if you want, you can get full tactical control. The screen is not frozen anymore, I'm be honest, but I think the overwhelming bombardment even shocked the screen into freezing. But of course, now we're back to normal. I mean, you have to keep in mind that the bombing campaign of Iraq is a massive bombing campaign. Absolutely massive. Thanks so much, John. No problem, man. It's my pleasure. Give it time, boys and girls. So as you can see, we've already got some gaps in the map now from where units have been completely obliterated. Remember that initially the Iraqi army was all along the front line, and now you've got these massive gaps, which of course we can move our infantry to, and that's because of the air interdiction. We've literally blown some units off the map. They no longer exist. Is it possible to disable the map jumping to each hotspot during the battle resolve phase? Good question. I'm actually not sure. Very good question. It continues! Oh, yes! I told you guys you were going to be surprised. I warned you, you were going to be surprised. This bombing campaign is huge. Just huge. And right here, we actually hit Baghdad. So, once again, we froze again, but it will unfreeze. This is really just calculating all of the damage done by the bombs dropped. And it is a massive calculation. Muso would know more about our rig. Is this a weak gaming PC, Muso, would you say? Look at all those lines. Look at that. There's almost no Iraqi army left. This is incredible. Yeah, KT, I think you're absolutely right. So here we go, guys. Wow, that was a massive bombardment campaign. I hope you guys remember just what the map looked like before. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the map now, and you're going to see a big difference in the enemy. So as you can see, Desert Storm becomes Desert Saber, and actually initially it was called Desert Shield. So it was Desert Shield, Desert Storm, then Desert Saber. Coalition forces crack open Iraqi defenses, and that's entirely due to the almost entirely due to the bombardment. Let's back up here. Look at that. Look at that, guys. Look at that. Do you guys remember what the Iraqi army looked like before? They took basically, you know, they were a nice thick force there on the front. After our bombing campaign, they're reduced to almost nothing. I love it. In fact, a lot of them have basically just run off into the desert trying to escape. Some of them are doing that over here near Kuwait City, trying to run to Kuwait City and maybe get some cover. But if you just look there at the front, I mean, some of these areas are just completely gone. We've just removed them from the map. And yeah, 22% air interdiction, I'll be honest. Yeah, that's pretty hardcore. That is extremely hardcore. The enemy is just, we've blown them to bits. So, of course, now, as you can imagine, if you're playing as the Americans, or in this case, the Coalition, I keep saying the Americans, but it's actually not accurate because several countries fought in the Coalition. You would basically start moving through at this point. You know, Alu Bay is completely undefended. No Iraqi troops there. We're just basically moving into cities easily. You know, these guys have definitely been shocked into submission. Remember, we were trying to surround these guys over here. The army almost got all the way back to the highway here. All gone now. All gone. In this particular battle, yes and no, I'll be honest. So yes, because it can handle a lot of the destruction of enemy units. No, because you still have to take victory points or locations in order to win. So we definitely have to get to Baghdad, or at least to Kuwait City. Basically, you look at the objectives before the match so that you can find out exactly what you have to do to win. If we take a look at the scenario briefing, for instance, you're going to find that information here. You get a background, etc., some sources letting you know exactly who created the scenario, etc., and basically lets you know how you can win the scenario itself. No, there's something that you can absolutely zoom out during the battles if you want, Ralph. Like, if you want to play like this, you can. I guess, I typically don't play this way, but if you want, you can absolutely do this. I like getting up close and personal. Also, I'm familiar with most of the NATO counters, so it kind of helps me identify. Okay, so somebody asked, what is a map that I would recommend to new players? All right. So I'm going to click Begin New Game. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and take a look here at Modern Asia. Now, the Battle of the Ia Drang Valley, this is a battle in the Vietnam War. I'm sure you guys know it from the movie We Were Soldiers with Mel Gibson. They actually did a movie about the battle called We Were Soldiers, and it's all about the Battle of the Ia Drang Valley. So just for fun, I'd recommend you guys play this as the Americans. It's not easy, but it's fun. It's really fun. In fact, almost all these battles are extremely fun. But what I would do is I would jump into Korea 5051 right here, okay? And I would have you play as the communists against the United Nations. So basically, we'll play here as the communist computer, and we will click Start. No, this does not work correct. Let me try that again. That is very weird. We're taking the communists, but it's not giving them. Maybe, let's try this. Maybe we're accidentally taking the South Koreans and not realizing it. There we go. Yeah, that's more like it. So once again, I would recommend you taking this one, Korea 5051, as the communists, as North Korea, and try to take South Korea. So here we go, guys. We got a nice news summary. This one also, by the way, no, you absolutely can, Amianis. I think I just chose incorrectly. The news summary: Communist forces invade South Korea. UN calls on member nations to aid South Korea. And the U.S. Congress authorizes active duty for reserve forces. So this is definitely the one I would recommend for you guys. It's going to be the Korean War as the Koreans. And yeah, once again, I am definitely playing as the communists here. But it looks like the AI has taken over the unit movement. This could just be part of the scenario where turn 1, maybe the AI takes control. Maybe KT could shed some light on this. Because we definitely selected the communists this time. Yeah, it is a little weird, isn't it, KT? So we'll definitely have a look at this. This could just be a tiny little bug. For whatever reason, we're unable to play as the North Koreans. Now that will be fixed, I can promise you guys that. Another issue could be we've been using this PC to host older versions of the Operation Art of War 4, and this was actually one of the first battles that we played with when we tested the game out. So maybe some files are overwriting under other files, and that's why I'm unable to play as the communists in this battle. That's very possible. Yeah, that generally has to do with Twitch. When you get blurry images, etc. Okay, guys, we're getting close to the end of this particular stream, but we definitely have time to look at another conflict. So I don't think we've looked at any of the Vietnam War conflicts, so I'm actually going to go ahead and take a look at one of the more interesting Vietnam conflicts. Not the American Vietnam War, but the French Vietnam War. So this is a tough one. If you play as France, really, really, really tough. I'm actually just going to take random. I'm just going to randomize it. I don't know if I'm playing as France or as the Viet Minh. I don't think it's actually called the Viet Cong at this time. It's called the Viet Minh, and I'm correct, yes. So that's because the cultural identity group is actually not, I mean, it is the Vietnamese people, but it's actually the Minh people. So, French army, oh boy, this is a tough one. So to give you guys a basic history of the Battle of Dien Bien Phu. I want to back up a little bit. We are trying to hold a sort of airbase slash fort against a massive, overwhelming NVA attack. One of the biggest problems in this battle for the French was the fact that the NVA, because of the hills up here, you see all these mountains, Bald Mountain, etc., they were able to actually put their artillery on top of a lot of these mountain ranges and fire down at the base, while at the same time sending their infantry in for a massive, massive attack, okay? So all of this stuff contributed. They also made it very hard for any French planes to land to deliver supplies. So French planes would basically have to drop supplies, which, if you guys don't know, when you're dropping supplies, a lot of the times they can get broken, they can drift over to the enemy lines, or you just drop them out in the open, and if you run out in the open to pick up supplies, you're going to get shot at. And that's not good. You know, you don't want to get shot at. So what I would do in this battle, first things first, I immediately start mobilizing and basically digging in if I can. So I'm going to go ahead and just minimize losses here. These guys are already dug in. We don't have to worry about that. Now these guys have to dig in, entire group. These guys have to dig in, entire group. And we're going to basically try to defend everything we can. We do have some units which we may be able to use as counter-attacking forces, but I think the safest thing to do is dig in and try to hold out. As you can see, there are numerous points here: Dominique, Almerie, Francois, and these are basically the strong points that the French army is trying to hold. Dominique is the central one. Actually, no, this one is the central one. What's it called? What's the central one called? I can't see. But basically, eventually the NVA did take the center, and that was the end of the battle. So we're going to go ahead and end the turn here, see if the NVA will attack. I'm almost certain they will. And actually, I keep calling it the NVA. That's not correct. This is the Viet Minh, so feel free to correct me. You know, this is, I don't believe the Viet Minh had any, or necessarily had any communist sympathies, their main focus was independence for their country. Now, I'm sure they may have leaned towards the communists, but I don't think they were entirely communist. The reason I say they may have leaned, they do have a communist flag, which is a red background, gold star, but really their main concern was independence for Vietnam. So keep that in mind as well. And then, of course, they eventually transformed into the NVA, also known as the North Vietnamese Army. Interesting, guys. News summary. Viet Minh launch human wave assaults at Dien Bien Phu. The French forces cut off at Dien Bien Phu, and French reinforcements parachute into Dien Bien Phu. I would not want to be one of those French forces. In fact, I think that would be pretty terrifying. Let's go ahead and see if we can maybe hit the enemy artillery. Also, have you guys noticed that the music changes depending on the theater you're playing in? Anybody notice that yet? This is much more sort of an oriental sound to the music, as opposed to if you're playing in Europe, for instance. So we don't know how this is going to work, but I know that during this battle, artillery was one of the Viet Minh's strongest assets. So I'm going to be using our bombers to assist in trying to take out that artillery piece, or pieces, really. The rest of these guys are going to stay dug in. We're not going to attack with anybody else, and we shall end the turn. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Brooding Phobos. That could be it. So, guys, the Korea, I still stand by you guys taking Korea 50-51. Play as the North Koreans. If you're a beginner, you're going to do fine, okay? Now, when the Americans show up, don't blame me that you lose. But as far as beating South Korea, you can definitely do that. You could take Seoul fairly quickly. And I think that's important to take Seoul fairly quickly because it kind of shows basically that, oh, look, I can take a capital. That's pretty cool. Now, look at this, guys. Enemy losses at 40%. So we actually, it was a weak attack. We could have actually gone for a stronger attack. We did a very careful attack here. We did pretty well. So let's take a look here at the losses on the enemy side. And it looks like we definitely destroyed some howitzers, so some mortars. And that's, of course, the enemy artillery unit. Actually, these are howitzers. These are proper artillery. 75 millimeter. No, that's not a mortar. That is proper arty. We destroyed a few of them, so that's really good. Now, in general, if you want to change like how fast or how hard your unit's going to strike, let's say just hypothetically speaking, right, that I wanted to take this unit and attack here, I could right-click this unit, and I could go over here, and I could actually order ignore losses for the entire group. This would basically mean almost like a Soviet human wave attack. They would attack. If they start losing men, they keep attacking. Or if you want to be a more cautious player, you could click minimize losses, which it's almost like a scouting mission. You know, you're attacking the enemy, but if you start taking a few shots, you immediately move back or retreat. Another bit of information that I think is pretty important to share, and believe me, this stream could go on for hours sharing information about the game. I mean, there's just so much meat here. You know, this game is the video game equivalent of a giant steak. There is so much here, and I just love it. But one thing that I want to show, so actually it's kind of hard to show right here because we got a unit next to it. Let me move this guy back. And as you can see, we just got interdicted by the enemy artillery. We just took a hit. So let's say we got this unit here, right? There's really not much information on it. We just know it's an infantry unit. But just like in a real war or a real battle, if you get closer to a unit, even if you don't have a scout that's close, you can probably see some, right? So now, and actually no, this is the wrong turn to show it at. This is the wrong battle to show it in. But basically in certain battles, I think the more modern ones, you're going to get more information about this unit. So maybe it'll tell you the name of the unit, something like that, the composition of the unit, but you got to be next to it. So if you're over here, you're not going to be getting all that info, and the unit will, for the most part, you know, stay out of your grasp. Okay, guys, well, we are getting, I like that outro music. This is really good outro music. It just happened to be outro music. We are getting to the end of this stream, guys. I hope you guys have enjoyed everything so far. I absolutely want your feedback and your opinions on this game. I believe we've gotten to about an hour and 45 minutes, maybe an hour and 50 minutes even. But I hope you guys enjoyed. I love the game. Thank you, Dave. For those of you watching us on YouTube, I want to thank you guys for watching as well. You know, we don't generally chat on YouTube just because we're mostly focusing on Twitch. So make sure if you haven't subscribe to our Twitch channel, please do. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channels, please do. And Muso's actually going to be sharing that with you guys right now. Cable Nexus, thank you very much. Thank you, man. Thanks a bunch. Very informative. I hope so. Again, I want to be very clear. Despite the fact that I seemed informative during this stream, I'm actually still an Operational Art of War 4 noob. So while I might be able to play and enjoy a battle, there's a lot I still need to learn myself about the game. Amianis is mentioning, please do a full battle soon. Absolutely. Thank you, Scheimdall. Thank you so much, man. Unfortunately, I just did the intro. I didn't make the game. I wish I had. I wish I had thought of this idea. That would be great. I also want to thank, find him here in a second, KT8093 for his assistance. I believe he's from the company, but might also be Bart, who's from our company. Nonetheless, thank you so much. And thank you for sharing my channel as well, Muso. We appreciate that. The Matrix channel, my channel, and the Slayer channel, subscribe to all of them, guys. They're all great. They're all great. Can't really put them in order of appearance. Ah, you are Tamash. Very cool, man. Awesome. I had a feeling. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Tamash. Well, thank you for your help. And guys, I want you guys to give a big round of applause here to Tamash, to KT893. If not for him, I would not have been able to do this stream. He really walked me through the game. He gave me a lot of information about this game and basically taught me how to play it. And if not for him, me and him, we actually worked together to create the tutorials for the game, as well as a few other colleagues here at the company that did a great job. It was a lot of work, but we managed to make it happen. So I think this is a great guy. All right, guys, I hope you all had fun. I hope first thing you'll do is go out and purchase the game. And I definitely want to see some comments on either my channel or the company channels about how you guys are doing in your current scenarios and campaigns in the Operational Art of War 4. I want to see if we've got any serious generals here. Thank you for watching, guys. Thank you, Brooding Phobos. And everybody have an excellent day.